Welcome to NFL Daily, where we are celebrating Shohei Ohtani 50-50 bobblehead day, also known as my brother Dean Rosenthal's birthday, also known as Nick Wesseling Day.
Woohoo!
Here on the show, joined by Jourdan, Rodrigue. And yes, Nick will be coming up a little later to give some award predictions, 2025 season predictions, after we go through all the awards, Jourdan, and reveal for the first time who's going to win every single one of them.
Yeah, because we're going to be so right on all of them.
You never know. And I do look at this exercise as one where you can kind of like, okay, who are some underdogs that maybe we're not picking, but that if you're into those sort of things, you could circle.
Especially the rookie ones. I love doing these rookie projections too. Like, this is so fun for me.
It's also a great feeling because we have been previewing the season on some level for 6 months. Eric is just nodding his head back there. And now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we actually have reached the final predictions of the season. So yeah, we're going to have a couple episodes next week on 40s and free agents where we go through the teams most likely we think to win the Super Bowl and talk about playoff teams and all that sort of stuff. But we'll start our preview, just conventionally today with the awards. And then next Tuesday, it's going to be very unconventional when Colleen Wolfe joins us again.
Yes.
The dark arts. What are we calling it? The
Darkly chaotic award season.
I love the darkness that's going to come. But first, we do have some news. So we did the show. It feels like just a few hours ago with all the cuts all around the league. It really was just a few hours ago. But there have already been waiver claims all around the league. So those claims come quick. They were at noon Eastern, 9 here on the West Coast. There were 29 waiver claims throughout the league. Everyone's putting together their practice squad, and it was kind of the deadline for teams to get some trades done, and we did finally get that Adam Thielen trade done. So we'll get to the waiver claims, but Adam Thielen is going back to the Minnesota Vikings for a couple pick swaps, like a seventh to a fifth and a fifth to a fourth. Ultimately, not a huge price, and he gives that receiver room some much needed depth.
Yeah, I mentioned on the show that we just taped a few hours ago that it's very clear that Minnesota was stockpiling some of these late, middle, and later round picks in current and future years to pile towards something. And obviously this has been in the works for a while. You mentioned it, where there's smoke, there's fire. We did record that so close to the recording of this episode. We still had enough time for somebody to get personally offended that I did not claim ownership of Adam Thielen and messaged me about this. Oh, you're underrating Adam Thielen. I'm like, well, I think he's a good player. I think he works really, really well with the Vikings.
You guys are getting a lot of Adam Thielen heat. Maybe it's the same guy. Eric noticed in the YouTube, someone was very fired up that we're giving Adam Thielen too much coverage. And ultimately,
what's the Adam Thielen meridian zone?
I don't know.
For us?
People are really
what do you want from us?
Fired up. Here's why I would talk about him slightly more than a normal aging receiver who's, I think, not a depth piece. He's going to be their number 3 receiver when Jordan Addison is back, but he's absolutely their number 2 receiver, and it's a cliff. I really just, and I know Jalen Naylor's not healthy right now, but I think he is much better. He was great on a per snap efficiency level basis last year.
Yeah.
Like, if you watched him, he was outstanding, and he was really good the year before. We'll see what the contract adjustment is. And yeah, the Carolina Panthers are the ones, though, that are moving up in the draft here, to be clear. But the Vikings didn't have to give up any draft capital, really. They just give up a couple moves down in the draft, so they keep as many picks as they had before.
It tells me they like, obviously, T-Mac being their Tet, they really, really appreciate that he's going to emerge as their one. This, to me, also, showed the Panthers' confidence in, like, a Jalen Coker, for example, who they really like in the building. And comfortability enough to move on from a player who was really solid for them, who was trustworthy, who was a great presence to have for Bryce Young. But this is the right thing, I think, for both sides, because he not only is he from Minnesota, and he's moving back. And there's a really great video circulating right now that I think the Vikings shared out of him learning the news of this and telling his family. And it's like the things you love to see. And he fits right into this offense immediately. And they needed immediate help there because of their depth issues. And this is a low pressure role for him, like you mentioned, Gregg, because he'll just go back to being the 3 and the safety net once the injured guys and the suspended guys come back.
And I do wonder, just in terms of where J.J. McCarthy wins, like if J.J. in terms of Jefferson, is going to have as much volume this year, because I think J.J. McCarthy is at his best, throwing the ball short, throwing the ball over the middle.
Yeah.
That's where Adam Thielen can win. And you mentioned Jalen Coker, an undrafted rookie last year, will now be their starting slot receiver. Hunter Renfrow did not make that team. It sounds like they're trying to bring him back to the practice squad. He was a little banged up. But man, that is a really young receiver group for Bryce Young. I like that, but I'm a little wary that Tetaroa McMillan, first-round pick, and then Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker, 2 second-year players, are the starting receivers for Young. Let's move on to the other big item that wasn't a trade this morning. Rashee Rice got suspended.
Have we given Adam Thielen enough time, do you think?
That was maybe too much time.
Okay, we missed our meridian. Damn.
That, I would believe, would be too much time. But as always, never read the comments. Rashee Rice suspended 6 games. There was a report earlier in training camp that believed that this might get delayed. In the end, I think he ended up taking the 6-game suspension, or they came to an agreement. So it will be the first 6 games of the season, which is a very difficult part of the schedule for the Chiefs, but adds some certainty for them. They will be playing the Ravens early in the season, and they will be playing Kyle Hamilton, who just got a big new contract, 5 years, $25 million on average on the extension of the 5-year extension, and $82 million guaranteed.
I love it. And you could see with his movement last season how much that impacted and affected that defense. He has been a +2, +3 player for that defense since he got there, but inclusive to what Zach Orr did last year, the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, and moving Kyle Hamilton around and like really maximizing his talent, his savviness, his knowledge of the game, and also the way he can manipulate space really well. It just was a win-win, and I love this for him. I think this is awesome. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I know a lot of us who love football, love watching Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, one of those guys that fell further in the draft, and it was like, oh, how do you let him get to the Ravens? Well, if you knew he was so good, why didn't you just take him? Everyone loved Kyle Hamilton coming out, and then he really did become that dude. I knew I was struggling, like, coming up with how long the contract is, because it's a 4-year extension.
Yeah.
But he still had 2 years left on his deal, because he had the 5th-year option left on his deal. So that's actually a 6-year contract, which means he's signed through 2030. Just big picture, I have noticed after the league was getting into this trend of these compressed contracts again, a lot of the big name players lately, they're getting extended back out to the old days, in which it basically means the Ravens are going to control Kyle Hamilton's entire career and his rights. With this contract, he is giving up basically any freedom in terms of ever leaving the Ravens, and he'll try to renegotiate at some point for the idea of getting paid earlier and sooner, and a very fair contract. So win-win. Let's go to another trade. Tim Patrick is going to the Jaguars for a 6th-round pick, which means it is Isaac TeSlaa season in Detroit. Little surprising, though, that they gave up on the receiver depth there.
And Liam Cohen gets his Robert Woods circa like 2019-20s era. Like, this is exactly what the Jaguars are trying to build out with this offense, and I think that's a perfect fit. And yes, it does pave the way for Isaac TeSlaa to truly emerge the way that Brad Holmes and company believed that he would when they, spent the draft pick on him.
Little wary, but Tim Patrick is going to go there as a guy who's like adding depth. They had a big cliff after Travis Hunter and Parker Washington, where they didn't love like their wide receiver 4 or 5, and Hunter's not a full-time receiver.
He's going to block. I mean, that Liam Cohen wants his blocking. I mean, this is very, it's like very clear to me what offense Liam Cohen is trying to run.
The only red flag would be, I listened to Colton Pouncey, your colleague's podcast, Welcome to Detroit. They mentioned maybe he hadn't had the best training camp in the world, and sometimes you do assume that these guys just stay the same year after year. He is 31 years old. He's had some major injuries in his career. Like, it's possible he's not the same Tim Patrick he was a couple of years ago. But to me, this was more about Isaac TeSlaa just needed to be put on the field. And so if Patrick wasn't going to get as much playing time, then you might as well deal him away. One thing I wanted to note, there was nothing new that happened in the last 24 hours, but like Quinshon Judkins, the 2nd-round pick, who was accused of domestic violence, and eventually the charges were dropped, still has not signed a contract with the Browns, and there's no clarity from the league or the Browns or anyone with Judkins what is happening there. But he is technically just unsigned, and we're waiting to see. So I just wanted to say that going into week 1. They only had a couple running backs on their roster after 53-man cutdown, but they did claim Rocket Sanders from the Chargers. The Chargers had 3 players claimed, so that they added a running back in Rocket Sanders from the Chargers. The Bills brought back Jourdan Poyer, just kind of like good vibes. Guy who was like a cornerstone piece of everything that they have done. Not the same player he was years ago. Struggled a little bit with the Dolphins, but he's back with the Bills. And I mentioned the waiver claims. Yeah, 29 of them. And we can just run through a few quick. Tommy Cutlets is a member of the Patriots.
Wow.
I don't know.
Who could have seen that coming?
I mean, I couldn't have. Why Tommy DeVito?
It's just he stays in the Northeast. Like that's kind of where my mind went.
It's tough. My mind went immediately that
Mike Vrabel has a fun guy to get beers with.
He's going to be one of the most popular players on the Patriots, and I feel for Josh Dobbs. You don't want to be
the pastronaut.
You don't want to be the backup quarterback in New England specifically when Tommy DeVito is the third stringer. Like Josh Dobbs is not going to be a popular guy there. The Patriots also released Kendrick Bourne, which is really interesting, and released Javon Baker, which is interesting. So they had 8 receivers make their initial 53-man roster, which is a crazy number. I think they were just
seeing if someone would come get Kendrick Bourne via trade.
Specifically, I think they were in a stare down with the 49ers trying to get like a conditional 7th because there's already reporting that the 49ers are interested. But they were like, we can live without him, honestly. If you really are going to hold out, like we're just going to, call your bluff. And it worked.
A Vrabel Shanahan stare down is like walking on the surface of the sun. Like, not for me.
I would not want to be part of that. Just the amount of intensity. I do think Kendrick Bourne is probably better than some receivers on that roster. Like, I think he can still play if he's healthy. It was partly a contract thing, and he was not going to be part of their future. Javon Baker should be back on their practice squad. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, by the way, who he mentioned, won that unofficial award for the most guaranteed money not to make his actual team, is joining the 49ers as well. I don't know if it's going to be MVS and Kendrick Bourne, but it's definitely MVS. Juju Brents went to the Dolphins, 2nd round pick. No surprise there. So they've added Rasul Douglas and Juju Brents in recent days to what was a pretty bad cornerback room. Trey Palmer, the former Buck, went to the Saints. The Titans claimed 4 players. They were the team that claimed the most. I think the only one over 2. While
which makes sense. They're rebuilding.
The Rams had the most players claimed. You don't really want to be that team with 4 players claimed.
Yeah, because you couldn't keep all your players the other guys wanted. And there's not enough roster spots, not enough practice squad spots, and other teams had high grades on some of these guys who ended up signing. The reason why undrafted free agents too sign with the Rams is because they play them. At least one makes the roster every year, and that guy usually plays meaningful snaps. And so other teams who may have had them high on their boards in the undrafted free agency process are now coming to get them on waivers. I think it's great for those players.
It's great for Willie Lampkin going to the Eagles.
The most quintessential, we could have seen this coming a mile away.
I think if the Rams saw it coming, they would have kept him, because I just have a feeling that this one hurts. So it's an undersized center who looked great in the preseason, but got hurt. And they tried to pass him through waivers because it's tough to keep an undrafted guy who's hurt at the time on your active roster. And the Eagles, of all teams, claimed him. We're just going to have to say it with me. You got it. Howie did it again! See, we got it this time. We'll see if he actually did.
I'm saying it's like we're screaming into the void watching this guy hit waivers. It's going to be the Eagles. It's going to be someone will come to get this guy. Don't expose him to waivers. But I will say, kind of had to, because they brought back Coleman Shelton, right? And then Bo Limmer started for them last season, and he's still on the roster as the backup.
Right, and he was hurt, Lampkin. So it just would have kicked someone off that actually would have had a role, and that's tough. Jalen Armour-Davis, by the way, who I think is a pretty good cornerback from the Ravens, was one of the Titans' claims. It is interesting looking who gets claimed the most. You would think it'd be the best rosters in the league. So the Chargers had 3 people claimed. The Ravens had 3 people claimed. The Broncos had a couple. The Chiefs had a couple. But then there were some wild ones. What's going on in New Orleans? Something's wrong that 2 of your players are getting claimed around the league. And the Colts and the Jags had 2 players claimed as well. Okay, that's what I thought was enough of news. But as we're taping, we do have some breaking news, at least as we're taping. Jane Slater reports that Micah Parsons is getting a second opinion on his back, per a source informed with the situation. It's just like the next little step. I don't know. Breaking might have been.
So does that mean he will be away from the team through that process? Because he's been there this whole time. Does that mean he's that's my question. Is he traveling somewhere to go see a specialist? So that would mean he's away from the team at that point?
There is a picture of him in the airport. He also was not seen, according to Cowboys reporters, at practice on Tuesday, which was a change. And people were wondering. And previously, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones had said, the back's fine. The back, it checked out fine. And now he's getting a second opinion. It's all very tiresome. There was a report by Pro Football Talk that had a source that said that there's some level of interest from the Packers and Micah Parsons, but qualifying, saying that it's nothing too much. We'll see. My
colleague Matt Schneidman, a great follow on social media, is having so much fun with this today. You guys should just go check out what I'm posting. Yeah, there's some funny.
Good plug.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to go through all the big awards: the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, the Offensive Player of the Year. I've now kind of turned around, and now I appreciate that award again. Back in a few, and then we'll have Nick Wesseling at the end of the show. Back on NFL Daily. And yeah, taping relatively early because I got to get out in those traffic-filled weekday streets downtown and get to that Shohei Ohtani bobblehead day.
It's a big day.
But the teams are starting to announce the practice squads. I know they're bigger, but there's something crazy when I just see the Steelers announce 16 guys to the practice squad. It is great because you are keeping not only some young players developing, but Robert Woods, for instance, staying in the league, getting a decent check, and you might get the call up. So he was among the 16 guys there. You see a lot of familiar names if you're into that sort of thing.
Do you know, this is a little inside baseball, but do you know what's really great for guys on the final years of their career who know that they are not going to maybe contribute so much? They're going to be on a practice squad as an emergency depth option in certain areas. So when you play a game in another state, you're taxed by that state.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a practice squad and you're getting the check, you are taxed in the original area. So he's saving, he's saving on some taxes here with that.
Well, couldn't it cost you more though too if you live in California and you're playing in Florida?
Exactly. So it's a but for him, I don't really know what the taxes in Pittsburgh are.
Why would I don't know? Taxes are a very confusing thing. The awards are not. They're the same every year, just about. But we've added one this year. We are going to go through all the awards that the Associated Press votes on. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and now Protector of the Year. That's an official award helped along by Andrew Whitworth and lots of offensive linemen who just wanted more attention. And maybe I'll ask you for an Assistant Coach of the Year too. Why not?
That's my favorite one.
Because I looked at the odds for these. We're not sponsored, so I'm not even going to say where or who. But, just for context, where people were ranked and stuff, I was curious about the odds. But Assistant Coach of the Year is the one that they don't list anything for. So it's I don't know if they just don't care or they don't recognize it, but they do give out an award, NFL honors. Your MVP for 2025 is?
Patrick Mahomes. First of all, because I don't think this little micro slump that he's in lasts much longer. Something's got to break. I really believe in some of the moves they've made along their offensive line. We'll talk about Josh Simmons here in a couple more. But I just think he can't sustain in this cage that he's been in, right? In terms of his passing and all of that and on the run so often. And I just think he just goes sicko mode this year in some cases. Now, I don't know that the Chiefs are going to be that Super Bowl team or that deep playoff run team, but I do believe that Patrick Mahomes, something in him will snap. Travis Kelce kind of being slimmer, being back into kind of maybe this is his swan song, got a nice little life waiting for him at the end of all of that. I just think there's something about this that feels like that he's going to break back out this year as the quarterback we know him to be.
We did it separately, and we ended up on the exact same page. And I know people are a little sick of Patrick Mahomes. Now, he is only the 4th favorite to win MVP, but they're all pretty close. Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow are just ahead of him. Lamar is like a slight favorite. I just think there's just a vibe. I shouldn't let the preseason matter, but I had it already. The offensive line is better. I think the weapons are better. But I just think he is ready to remind everyone who he is. Stop being not an efficient, effective player, but an exciting player. Like one of the best players that we've ever seen. And I just think this is the year that'll happen. Now, you mentioned you're not sure if they're going to win the Super Bowl or go far. Well, they have to have a great record for him to win the MVP.
Yeah.
Almost every MVP is from a 1 or a 2 seed, and it's almost always a quarterback.
Yeah. I'm not burying him by any means.
I just mean like a lot of times it comes down to what team has the best record. Now, it didn't happen last year. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Lions were at the very top, and they weren't in the MVP mix. But you basically have to have like a top 2 or 3 seed to get there. If I was looking at dark horses, and yeah, like when you look at Aaron Rodgers' career, by the way, and Tom Brady, these guys who have won it 4 or 5 times, which I think can happen. Brady only won it 3 times, but I think that can happen. It's like, yeah, it doesn't happen every year. Like you have to go in these little dips and then you pop back up. And I think the narrative of Mahomes this year becoming exciting again, becoming a big playmaker, and it just makes sense to me that people will be ready to vote for him. If you were looking for some longer shots, plus 2,000 right now, only 7th on the list, but Jalen Hurts is a pretty strong one. If you're looking for a team that would have a good record, he was very close to winning an MVP just a couple of years ago. And then Dak Prescott is buried around like 14th, 15th among players, plus 4,000. Last healthy season, he was right in the MVP mix, literally came in second. So I think he would be another one if you were like looking for value and looking for someone maybe not as obvious.
Yeah, but you're talking about team record in the same breath as like Mahomes and all of that stuff. I assume that's why he's being buried, is because people are really skeptical about the Cowboys overall right
now. They would have to surprise. You would need like a 12-5 season in Dak Prescott just having crazy numbers. But I think there'll be a pass first offense. I don't think it's crazy. I do think they will get a big award, though. I'm going Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year. And this is part of my strategy is I've picked him Defensive Player of the Year every year for the last 3 years, basically since his rookie year. And I just think he will win one, and I will be right eventually. He ended up finishing in the 30s of the top 101, top 100 players on NFL Network.
That was crazy to me. I could not actually.
Is he underrated? People don't like him, I think. Maybe that's it.
It's like his colleagues. That's who's voting on those awards in these locker rooms. That was kind of crazy to me because these guys, the football players know football, obviously. So there's some other, maybe they wanted to give other veteran players more priority or whatever. The Micah thing's interesting to me. I like this pick, but I have to say because this is still unresolved, because he hasn't practiced, because of all this, I have no reason to believe that he won't need a little bit of a ramp-up period. Now, he could be playing dominant football by any metric by the time voters are having this fresh in their heads. So that's why I think it's a solid pick, and he probably has pretty good odds, too.
He did miss 4 games last year, and you never know when these ballots go out. So maybe
that's
it was
what Jerry Jones said.
Maybe it was like a lot of ballots were out like while he was out, and then those people, they just don't vote for him there. He finished second as a rookie in Defensive Player of the Year, which is crazy. He won rookie, was a first-team All-Pro. Was second in Defensive Player of the Year as a second-year player. So I've been close, and he was third in his 3rd year. Last year was the one time, he really didn't get consideration. But I've said it before on this show, I'll say it again. The best pure pass rusher to come in the league, I believe, this century, like of the last 20 plus years. I think Von Miller would be another one that pops to my mind, but just pure pass rusher. So I think he'll get it eventually, no matter what team he's on. I'm willing to entertain it's on another team. Who do you got?
Yeah, I was torn because I wanted to pick Micah Parsons, but all of this still being in flux to me, unresolved. I went another direction. Riding the wave of his Defensive Rookie of the Year award, I think Jared Verse has a real shot.
Whoa!
At Defensive Player of the Year. When you watch his tape, game over game, and you see the amount of pressure he got, but the number of sacks that he left on the board, and knowing, his personality, knowing the group around him as well, that is quite literally built to set him up for success. I just think that this guy is going to have another dominant season and he's going to be in the conversation. I don't know what his odds are, but I know that he's going to be in the
They're
conversation.
shockingly high. I would not have expected this because to me, I heard that. I think that's wild. He is actually the 6th favorite. Now, it's still a pretty long shot, plus 1,500. Micah is the favorite, so I didn't know that either. Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. A lot of times it is a passer.
I think
rusher,
Aiden
Nick
Hutchinson
Bosa.
has a shot at this too, honestly. I think, but we, rightfully so, are not doing the dumb award, comeback player of the year, that nobody can seem to agree on, because a guy literally returned from death and still did not win the award a couple of years ago. But Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to win that award.
And now, did they even define that it's just coming back from injury? We're not going to bother with comeback player of the year. I just find it weird because it's like a weird sliding scale of like, who was the best, but how hard was the injury? It's stupid. Jared Verse, that's interesting. Looking at some longer shots, I don't know if you like anyone. Jalen Carter is 9th on the list. If you were looking, it's pretty hard for a defensive tackle to win the award.
That's some good respect, though.
Unless you're Aaron Donald.
We were riding the table for Dexter Lawrence for a little bit last year because his production, despite being on a terrible team, was absolutely in the conversation early on, especially for Defensive Player of the Year.
I think Max Crosby is a guy who, he's 8th, listed as 8th, basically tied with Verse, plus 1,600. Isn't that crazy? And then we'll get to Abdul Carter. But if you wanted to go crazy, if you were picking a position where a rookie can come in and possibly win an award like this, Micah Parsons almost did it. We have seen, Von Miller was outstanding as a rookie. We have seen pass rushers come in. He's all the way down at plus 5,000, tied with Kirby Joseph. I mean, that's crazy. Like 15, 20 players down the list. He would be an interesting one, but we'll put a pin in that. Let's do Offensive Player of the Year, an award that I used to refuse to answer on NFL.com when we have to submit all of our picks. By the way, that you'll be checking them out on NFL.com soon. I did answer those questions this year, but now I'm back in because it's basically the non-quarterback award.
Yeah.
I just don't like it when they give it to the second best quarterback, which is what happens a lot of times too.
Yeah, but it's turned out to be really handy, especially when you have a season like Saquon Barkley had last year. I think it's unfortunate for my pick to win it this year that he happened to win the Triple Crown last season, the same year Saquon Barkley quite literally made history as a running back. Jamar Chase, I think, is my Offensive Player of the Year pick this year. I think that sometimes we see voters sort of correct things in advance. I'm not saying it was incorrect that Saquon won it, but I know that Jamar was frustrated he didn't get more votes. That was sort of a headline a few months ago. And I do think that he is someone who is deserving and should be on pace to have another incredible season.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like winning a Triple Crown, it doesn't get any better than that.
I know. It's like
the odds of him doing that again are very small.
I know. And it's one of the best. It's like in history, so few people have actually done that. But Steve Smith, and then it was Cooper Kupp in 2021, and then Jamar Chase. And it's just crazy to me that these receivers are able to do this, first of all. And I don't want to hear about there's an extra game. Oh my God. Like, I don't want to hear about that.
And that doesn't affect the Triple Crown because you're just, it's all
production.
It's all
yeah.
even.
And it's production based. And so that's where I'm like, okay, I think that Saquon was so deserving of that award last year, 100%. I know that even some people were arguing that he should be the MVP, especially because what he did for the entire Eagles as an organization, and certainly as an offense. But it's hard when you are up, you're Jamar Chase, and you have literally an historic, like one of only a few people who've ever achieved what you achieved in history, and you finished second in offensive.
You finished third. Lamar Jackson went ahead of him.
Third. That's right.
That's why I don't like this award, and
that's right.
That's why when I was looking at the odds, if I was looking for some of the longer shots to do it, like I would love Jalen Hurts for Offensive Player of the Year because he could end up being that like second quarterback gets it. Josh Allen is like plus 6,000. Patrick Mahomes is way down there below like Ladd McConkey or Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jonathan Taylor. And like I could easily see them coming in second. At the top, it's the guys from last year, Saquon and Jamar Chase. I'm going to take the third favorite to win it as my pick, which is Jahmyr Gibbs. I just feel like he's gotten better at football every single season, and the situation is not as good in front of him overall, so that's a little bit of a concern. But I just think in terms of his skill set, this is to me, the year in a running back's career that I can just see it all coming together in him having a 2,500 yards from scrimmage type of bananas season. That's lofty.
Friend
goals.
of the show.
But maybe even 21 yards from scrimmage. That would do it. So yeah, if you were looking for a really deep sleeper, Travis Hunter is way down there. Just saying. People would like voting for that. All right, let's do coach of the year. This is giving away maybe a team that you think is going to be good, but it's time to do that. It's the week before the season.
Yes, and this award, I want to be clear, usually goes to coaches who outperform expectations. I think we can agree that like the Andy Reids of the world should win this award every single season. But that's just not how the voters think about this. And so I'm going with Mike Vrabel here, not only because he does have plenty of friends in the media, but also because,
I like this angle.
But also because I believe that he, as the head coach of the Patriots, will lead that team to vastly outperforming, if not at least extremely outperforming the expectations entering the season, especially relative to the disaster that it was last year, the absolute like destruction that the roster was in that he inherited, and the fact that they have to rebuild basically 3 draft classes. And so you're going to have to out-coach and outperform the talent that you have and the depth, especially the lack of depth that they have. And I think if Mike Vrabel can do that, I'm not saying that this is a playoff team per se, but I think that if he can do that,
they got to be a playoff team for him to make any chance to win this.
I'm just saying, I think that if they look good, if they lose close games and they win enough of them, I think he is a front runner for coach of the year.
Their expectations, though, are sneaky high. Like, they're over-unders 8.5. Everyone's predicting them to make the playoffs. I'm a little anxious when I see that. I've seen some of the predictions coming out this week. I think, on average, they are probably going to get picked to make the playoffs where they're like a consensus 6 or 7 seed. If some team had to. Obviously, a lot of people disagree. But I'm seeing them get there. And Vegas is there with them, too. And they have, on paper, one of, if not the easiest schedules in the entire league. So to me, for him to win this award, they'd have to win at least 10 or 11 games, maybe more. And that would be the only way to vastly exceed expectations. The expectations locally and nationally are like 9 and 8 at worst.
I'm really not talking about the expectations that Vegas is placing on them or the consensus odds. I'm really not talking about
the people,
though,
how people think, the voters,
I'm talking about what this team will look like relative to what it looked like last year. Yeah. I don't think he has to win 10 or 11 games to be a front runner for this job.
I do, because I just think the expectations from the voters are going to be so high that the people think that they're a playoff team or at least a borderline playoff team. I went for a more under the radar guy in terms of the odds, but not much more. Vrabel's the second favorite. Aaron Glenn is the fourth favorite.
I could see it.
He's someone where if they just won 9 games would have a chance at this award. Call it the Dick Jourdan memorial of just a guy who what? The Bears won that many games? Actually, he won a ton of games. He might have won 13 when he won Coach of the Year, but just totally exceeds expectations because the Jets are expected to be one of the worst teams in the league. And when I'm saying the Vegas odds and using that as a framework, I think it is useful because it's ultimately just a reflection of the average person and how they're seeing it as well. And ultimately how the media is seeing it as well. And everyone has the Jets buried. And so I think if they come out and they're just competitive and you can see the fighting spirit that they have and they just look so different from a offensive perspective and then just play hard on defense and they win 9 games, I could see him winning.
It's funny because that's literally what I just said about the Patriots, right, except the market is so different. And the I
agree. I think they should be the same. I'm with you that I think they should be closer.
I just think it's funny. That tells you exactly how different the expectations in the markets are relatively.
Part of it was the Patriots spent a ton of money in free agency and the Jets didn't, and people just pay attention to that. But I think they don't realize how much they had to overcome. Ben Johnson is the favorite right now for Coach of the Year. Liam Cohen is up there. It is often a guy in the first year of his new spot. Pete Carroll is up there as well, like Canales, Mike McDonald. We can be the change, though. I want that freaking AP vote. Give me the vote. I voted Andy Reid last year to end the season. I thought he was my Coach of the Year because I did not think that was a great Chiefs team. And the way they got through that regular season was an absolutely incredible coaching job. Let's do Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year.
You might be surprised by mine, actually. This is a volume pick. I think that this player is going to be needed and utilized so immediately that his volume of catches, of snaps, of carries is going to be so significant that he'll just stay in the collective conscious for the entire season and become a true weapon for this team. It's TreVeyon Henderson.
Wow.
I think that the Patriots rookie running back, TreVeyon Henderson, could be the offensive rookie of the year. And that's because, in part, he will be so urgently needed that there is no choice but for him to have to produce.
Ramondre Stevenson's out there and it's like, hey, I'm one of the highest paid running backs in the league.
In every phase, I think this guy's going to be on the field way more than maybe people expected when he got drafted.
I think that's right, and I think he's a great value too. I'm surprised he's 6th on the list. He's plus 1,400 if you're curious. Genty with the Raiders, Ashton Genty and Cam Ward are way ahead of the pack as potential favorites, which makes me way happier to pick Travis Hunter, who's 4th on the list.
I wanted to pick him so bad because I believe so much in him, and I wanted to pick him so bad. But I thought about volume, and I thought about how much all of this is going to maybe be in TreVeyon Henderson's favor in terms of having to produce.
And that's why I need the season to start, because I just keep making the same points where, like, I don't buy that long term, but that is the logical assumption. Like, he's not getting that many snaps. They're going to work him in slowly. That all makes sense to me. I believe in his talent enough that, like, by week 3 or 4, which is basically the whole season, he can be getting that volume, that he's a better prospect than Brian Thomas Jr. was a year ago. Like, he can have a better season. He can be better than Brian Thomas Jr. is right now. So I am not only taking him for offensive rookie of the year, I'm having him pull the daily double. Let's go defensive rookie of the year. He wins in both. He blows absolutely everyone's mind. He's a much longer shot to win defensive rookie of the year because
he won't be playing all the defensive snaps, and he won't be rushing the passer.
Right. It's going to be very tough, but it is a narrative award sometime. And if he goes out there and he gets 4 or 5 interceptions and he's a baller and people just get swept up in the magic of the baseball Shohei Ohtani, he's actually only 5th in terms of the odds of defensive rookie of the year, way behind the favorite Abdul Carter, but he's plus 1,300. So it's not that crazy. I'm doing the Travis Hunter daily double.
I love it. I want this to happen. I really want badly for this to happen. Colleen. I still picked Abdul Carter to win defensive rookie of the year, but the picture that you're painting, Greg, I
partially didn't pick him just because I figured you were picking him, and he is the most logical pick, probably the right pick. But it didn't.
But I like what you did.
It didn't feel as fun. and on a real level, like if I was just looking at value or whatever, like Abdul Carter is favored to win defensive rookie of the year more than anyone is favored to win any award, which it does make sense to me. But that's not as fun. And if you're into these sort of things, and I know you're not, there's less of a return there. Yeah. And I'm obviously not. But we are allowed to pick games and pick guys like this. We have a whole show, Game Day View, where we pick games and pick scores every week. The list at Defensive Rookie of the Year is crazy. Jalen Walker is 2nd at plus 950. He's like 4th on their edge group, so that's terrible. Michael Williams just doesn't seem like a guy that is going to put up numbers, is 3rd. Mike Green of the Ravens, I guess he's a pass rusher, is 4th. Like Jahad Campbell would maybe be the other one other than Hunter.
That would be my sleeper because I am there. There's some magical potential of Jahad Campbell in this Eagles defense.
He's plus 1,500 and he's 6th on the list. And yeah, these awards usually go to pass rushers and linebackers.
Yes.
So Jahad Campbell could absolutely get that. Quickly on assistant coach, because we've got Nick Wesseling.
Yeah, I'm going
ready to go.
I'm going Jesse Minter on assistant coach of the year because I think he's going to take this Chargers defense and from out coaching maybe a little bit of a talent dearth and getting them to produce to a second year of this system, doing things a little bit differently than others in that coaching tree do. And he's getting a lot of buzz already in these sort of circles that talk about who might be head coaching, on the head coaching radar in the 2026 cycle. So I do think that Jesse Minter would be a top choice of mine for assistant coach of the year. I think that any of these chip on their shoulder, coming back to try to show what they learned, defensive coordinators who are helping first-time offensive head coaches might be candidates for this. And then I also think our sleeper is, King Grizzard down in Tampa Bay.
Oh, what is his actual name?
Josh Grizzard.
Josh Grizzard. I love that. You know what's shocking? I'm looking this up while you're talking. Like, Jesse Minter did not even come in the top 5 last year for assistant coach of the year.
Which is crazy.
What group exceeded expectations? Look, I love Ben Johnson and I love Brian Flores, but if we're talking about exceeding expectations, doing a lot with a little, those were the top 2. And then you had Aaron Glenn and Vic Fangio and Joe Brady. Oh, great, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love Vic Fangio.
I think Jesse Minter would have been a better pick for all of them last year even.
Yeah, and I think, again, we talk about markets and eyeballs on teams and coverage of teams and all that stuff. And so I think that's part of it. And I also think some of it is, you know, I mean, even players like Dion Henley, who he really maximized out into being one of the better linebackers in the NFL right now. Like the way he was moving, Derwin James had like a renaissance last year. All of that kind of flew under the radar, just saying. So I do think it's time to give those guys a little bit more love.
And in light of being the change we want to see, my pick is going to be Titans offensive line coach Bill Callahan.
Oh,
because everyone is
yay.
eligible for this award and they only
Yeah.
vote for coordinators.
I know.
So let's get it going. That's a good offensive line. Maybe Cam Ward has a surprising season, but if Jeff Stoutland didn't even come in the top 5 for voting last year for the Eagles, it's probably never going to happen. Finally, speaking of offensive linemen, the Protector of the Year award. Tough to really handicap this ahead, but we'll try anyways. I know Tristan Wirfs is hurt to start the season, but I'm going to say he's going to come back and he's going to look so good by the end of the year, and their offense and Grizzard is going to cook so much that he wins it, because I think he might just be the best offensive lineman in football.
Yeah, I really debated between him. The injury factor took him out of consideration for me. I was looking at Penei Sewell. I really think that because of Penei Sewell's like body of work that he's built up to this point, maybe the first one that they give is like to somebody who's deserved it for a little while. I also want to know Joe Alt moving over to left tackle. If he plays well out of position, that's somebody to look at for here. And my like sleeper pick is if Patrick Mahomes has a MVP season, we have to talk about Josh Simmons at left tackle.
Whoa.
For the potential of like surprising everybody and getting this award. Because if Patrick Mahomes is protected the way that he should be protected, that would mean Josh Simmons as a rookie is doing his job at the top level. And that would mean that he should be in the conversation here.
That would be wild. And I wonder what his odds are for offensive rookie of the year, because
he's probably not even on there right now.
It's
like nobody's talking about this guy.
Nobody ever votes for offensive linemen for rookies of the year. So it would be tough to pull off. But yeah, I can't even find him there. Like he's literally not listed anywhere.
I love that
Sad.
they called it Protector of the Year. That's just good branding right there, honestly.
I would love him winning that award. But I don't think it's going to happen. You know what else I love? The entire Wesseling family. We've got Nick Wesseling ready to join the show. I don't know if he's had to listen to us honk about the awards. We're just going to roll right into it.
The drop.
Yes, he is a member of the Cincinnati Zoo, which is all the Wesseling brothers. So if I sometimes forget about new listeners, Nick, but I do want to just bring up who you are as we get here. How are you doing, Nick, by the way?
Doing wonderful, outstanding. Spent a couple of weeks out of town on the West Coast a few weeks ago, feeling relaxed and ready to rock and roll for this football season.
You look relaxed. You got the Cincinnati FC. I know you're a big soccer guy, the shirt on. But yes, we are in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio. That is Nick's brother. And it hit me today coming in that we're coming on 5 years this Super Bowl when Chris died. And we love having the connection with all the Wesseling brothers, but Nick is the loudest of all of them. The one who just kind of is a self-appointed spokesman, maybe to the annoyance of all the other brothers, but it's been extremely effective, Nick, I think. It even got you to the best man status at Chris's wedding. I gotta give it up to you for that. And so we love to have you on to talk a little football and just have a little more Wesseling in our life.
Well, some people say loudest, some people say best. Either way, I'll take it. I was the middle child, 3 older, 3 younger, so I didn't get paid attention to unless I yelled and screamed. So they taught me at a young age to go ahead and be heard.
No, you kept it all together. Although to me, not best. I love you all, and I think Phil's probably the only one that's actually going to listen to this. And it's also the week that we do our fantasy league. My kids do a fantasy league, which his son Mackie is in, and love Phil, love Mackie. So no favorites here, but I know you have the hottest of takes, Nick. So let's get into some football. I gave you some prompts going into the year. I wanted some Nick Wesseling predictions. I have no idea where you're going to go with this, but we just did a bunch of awards. Do you have like an awards prediction for this season?
This is going to sound like a homer take, but Joe Burrow will win the MVP this year. With this awful defense that the Bengals look like they're trotting out there. They're going to have to put up 50 every game, and I think they have the ability to do that. So I think it's his best year yet. I think the people will get a little tired of voting for Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and even if they have similar years, I think Joe Burrow's numbers outdo all of them, and he's your MVP for this year.
Nick, what is your take on like the internal rage that Joe Burrow seems to be managing at all times when he's on the sideline watching this defense? I know you are locked into this as a storyline. What is your take on just his, I would say rage management would be how I would call that.
I tell you what, I think that's the reason people like him so much.
Yeah.
Is because he keeps it cool, even though you can tell he's furious. I think it was about midway through last season when he was given post-press conferences and people were asking him questions and he's just like, yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, we got to do better. And you're just thinking like, man, he wants to punch the guy who asked that question. Obviously, he's not going to do that. He's always been a class act. This Bengals offseason has, I don't know what the right word is, tumultuous might be a good word for it. They seem to, at the last second, get it together and realize that they needed Trey Hendrickson. Even the Shamar Stewart saga earlier, people have forgotten about that because the Trey Hendrickson went all the way through the preseason. That they just didn't seem to have their stuff together.
What do you think? What do you think Wes would think about where they're at? Because on one hand, this is the best era. They're back in a winning era for the first time since you guys were kids. And they found the quarterback. I mean, he's going to be, if not already, the best quarterback in the history of the franchise. And yet they seem very like Bengals-y. What where do you think he would be at? Where are you guys at? It's such a weird, complicated relationship the Wesseling family has with the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm more similar to Chris. I think he was more vested and hated them. I was more indifferent. I don't know. Hate's probably the wrong word.
No, I think hate. I think hate was accurate for a long time, but I always felt like that was the flip side of love, right? He cared.
Right. Yeah. If you want to go down that street, yeah, their indifference would be more what I was for 20 years. Obviously, him working for the NFL, and then even though the Andy Dalton years were frustrating, at least they were competitive for most of that time, and even the Carson Palmer years. So it was easy. It was very easy to get invested again with this team because they're a lovable team. They got, the receivers, they have Joe Burrow. Even the coaching staff is a little vanilla, but they seem to put their best players in position to win. So they were an easy team to root for, but then the organization does things like they did this offseason and even last offseason, not signing Higgins and Chase when clearly they wanted to do it all along. And they just had to pay an extra $50 million to sign the two of them. It seems counterproductive to me, but obviously I'm not running the franchise, so I don't really get a say in that. By the way, Jourdan, congratulations on the new gig. I love listening to you and love reading your work. So.
Oh no, I'm gonna cry. When I heard your voice, I was trying not to cry. You sound so much like Chris.
You sound and look a lot like Chris.
Yeah,
yes.
And
let me go ahead and say Chris would be really proud too. He liked you a lot.
He really wouldn't. He was, and he was a fan of Jourdan's writing, big time. And it is one of those things you think about, like, the takes that were missing from him. And it is interesting because Burrow got hurt in that rookie year, and that rookie year was the last year that Chris was with us. And then, of course, that first year where Burrow's starting, we finish it, Nick, you and all the brothers at SoFi Stadium And, you're watching it with Keisha. Keisha's got the jersey that she made special for the day that was half Rams, half Bengals. And unfortunately, it felt fitting that the Bengals came up short, but it was a crazy day. I'm curious about your reflections of that day. I'm also curious how you think this team's going to be this year, but let's think about that day for now.
Well, we'll do the Super Bowl. It still seems a little surreal. That year was a wild ride. Obviously, they seemed just like an average team until the last few weeks of the regular season. And then they turned it on, and that defense kept making play after play after play. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow was had me, you, Jourdan, and the production team blocking in front of him that year. So there wasn't much chance of him putting up some of the numbers he's been putting up the last couple of years. Yeah, that was a rough. If you ever want to be entertained, go back and look at the starting 5 offensive linemen in that Super Bowl, and you'll see 3 guys that never played again, and another guy that barely played again, and then one who had a decent career.
The second half of that game is brutal to rewatch because the Bengals defense dominated Matthew Stafford and the Rams for so long, and they just
you're lining those guys up against Von Miller and Aaron Donald. What could go wrong?
They decided on the most important play of the game to just go ahead and let Aaron Donald go and destroy Joe Burrow, who, a half a second before Jamar Chase is wide open for a touchdown.
I got to say, though, we got drinks afterwards at your Airbnb that you had nearby, and the Wesseling brothers were in plenty good spirits afterwards. We were feeling a lot, obviously, that entire year, and we still do in that night especially. But you guys were like enjoying. You were living in the moment. I'm curious, if you have Joe Burrow winning MVP, what do you think this team's going to do this year?
So we'll know after week 2, I think. If they're not 2-0, they're at the Browns and then Jaguars at home. Before they go, I'm going to have to look at my cheat sheet here, my notes here, but they have the next 5 games are absolutely brutal. I think they have at Vikings, then Broncos at home, Broncos on the road, Lions at home, Packers on the road, Steelers at home before on October 26th.
That's fine.
That might be.
You're the Bengals. They're all looking at your schedule and saying, "Oh no, we got the Bengals that week."
Well, no, we've got the Bengals offense that week.
There you go. But if they're not 2-0, I can't take them serious this year. I think if they're somewhere 5-4 going into the end of October, early November, I think they're a legitimate contender for the Super Bowl. I just think that Joe Burrow is that good and his offense is that good that they can carry him. You saw it at the end of last year. They almost snuck in somehow. I think they win 5 straight games at the end. They make it interesting. It gets frustrating watching this team and watching the organization, but I can't take my eyes off of them.
It's a crime if they are 5-4 even, or if they don't make the playoff. Like the heat needs to be on Zach Taylor. It's an organizational failure the way Joe Burrow is playing to not be winning like 12 games a year. I don't know how I feel about it. Like on paper, the defense is not going to be good, but defenses are more unpredictable. Nick Wesseling, are you gonna text your brothers and brag about this appearance, or how are you going to handle it?
No, we're going to find out which ones are still listening to you. I know Phil does regularly. And I mean,
he was the only one. You guys were the only 2 that ever did in the first place. Who else? I don't think anyone.
No. Tim was an avid listener and loved listening to the old show. And I know he occasionally listens now, and so does Mike. Eddie was listening. By the way, Eddie, I don't know if this is public. It's all out there. But Eddie, my oldest brother Ed, had a battle with cancer, and he's doing very, very well. He's in remission. Everything's going well. He's gaining his weight back, so he looks good, looking strong. So if he's listening, we love you, and good to see you healthy again.
Yeah, love Eddie. I always remember meeting Eddie at Chris's wedding down in Tybee and being like, wait, this is a Wesleyan brother? Because it's just different than the rest of them, just a little different. Love you, Nick. Love having you on. And the season wouldn't have felt right to start with a little Wesleyan on the show, and hope to get you back for for one of those Bengals primetime game recaps maybe down the line.
Anytime, Greg.
All right. That's it. We're done for today. We're not done for this week. But Nick, by the way, you made Jourdan's day.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Here.
I'm blotchy because I was trying not to cry. Nick, it is such an honor. Thank you so much for joining the show when I am on the show. I listen. I've heard your voice and all of that, and man, you sound so much like Chris, and I just it's an honor. Thank you so much.
Nick, it was a pleasure. It was definitely not an honor to have you on.
Don't listen to Gregg. Don't listen to Gregg.
I mean, that's a little much, but it was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure.
Honor to be on with Jourdan, such a fantastic writer and analyst. And well, it's always good to see you too, Greg.
I guess.
That was Nick Wesseling. Hit the music. Let's get out of here. We will be back on Thursday. One of my favorite annual shows of the year. I mean, imagine if Nick Wesseling picked the right over-unders in a draft for 4 straight years, undefeated. He would never freaking stop talking about it. That's what I've done for the last 4 years. Can I make it 5? Nick Wright on Thursday. We'll see you.